4 simple steps to get groceries on a budget with a meal plan. Let's dive into step 1. Start with protein. What are the proteins that I like? And just list them out. Even if they're unrealistic, let's say you like 10-ounce filet mignon, but that might not be in your budget. That's fine. Write that out and see where we're at in terms of what types of protein you will eat and you will enjoy eating. Now, we'll actually do the same thing for carbohydrates. So, thinking about the types of carbohydrates that you like to eat, and I will group fruit and vegetables into this as well. When I actually think about my carbohydrates, I try to think about what's going to complete my protein meals. So, if I have salmon or fish, I could make tacos. Maybe I'll need some tortillas. If I have maybe chicken or something, maybe I want to put it on a pita or a flatbread. Now, fats are going to be the things that make your meals taste good or are nice additives to meals on the side, even good snacks. For me, I tend to stick with nuts and seeds, and then I love avocados. And I have issues with loving dairy a little too much. So I have a lot of milk and cheeses and sour creams and things like that, but I use very small quantities of that to add to my meals to give it some flavor. Meat and vegetables and carbs can get a little dry, so fats can add some kind of moistness to your meals and obviously just taste. All right, so next up we're on to step 2. So I have kind of my daily calories that I'm supposed to eat, and I know my protein, carbohydrate, and fat goals. Based on this, I need to break it up. Am I going to eat 4 meals a day? Am I going to eat 3 meals a day? Do you do snacks? It's really going to depend on you. For me personally, I tend to eat 4 meals a day, and one of those is likely a post-workout shake. That sometimes I add protein too, but sometimes I drink the protein while I work out. So, with that being said, if I'm aiming for 165 grams of protein, 3 meals a day, 55 grams a meal, that's too much for me. So I like the more 4 meals broken up. So I'm literally going to aim for around 35 grams a meal. And I tend to get a little more than that, maybe around 40. So if I do have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a post-workout shake, I'll still be able to hit that goal. But again, each day changes and you have to keep that in mind, knowing about how much you need each meal to hit your macronutrient goals. All right, so now we'll look at carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are a lot more fun because typically you get to eat more of them, and that is going to pertain to your workout regimen and how active you are on a daily basis. But it's a lot easier to hit carbohydrates than it is protein. Why? Because carbs tend to make you more hungry. They sometimes give you that sugar rush, which make you want to eat more, whereas protein really fills you up. So in general, carbs are kind of lax, and I would say no one is fighting to get carbs in a daily basis. But for me personally, I could have about 55 grams a meal, but I know I get at least 50 in that post-workout shake because I do a lot of bananas and other fruits that are high in carbohydrates. And in breakfast, I don't normally have that many. I'll have oatmeal, which is maybe around 30 carbs. So that means later in the day, I get to have a little bit more carb, which I tend to work out around lunchtime or midday, so that works for me. But long story short, you need to figure out what's going to work for you. Have fats. Most of the time, if someone is looking for aesthetic goals, they will eat a lower fat diet. Especially if they're training really hard, they'll have a lot more carbs and a lot less fat. So in this example, for an example, 50 grams of fat is very low for me. I like to eat around 120 grams of fat, and I'll eat far less carbs. But when I'm training very hard, I need to have more carb and less fat. With this, it presents a problem. This means I can only have about 12 grams per meal. I don't like that because, as I mentioned earlier, I really do like dairy and other things that tend to be high in fat. So what I do is I limit my fat in the morning, and I tend to have a very high protein breakfast, moderate carb, and then that gives me a little more wiggle room later in the day because I know myself and I know the types of meals I like to eat. If I'm going to have tacos, I'm going to want some cheese and sour cream. If I'm going to have salmon at the end of the day, salmon is also very high in fat. It's good fat, but it's high in fat. So long story short, manage your fats and make sure you have a plan so you don't end up at the end of the day, oh shoot, I'm way over on my fat. I can't eat what I want to eat. So we figured out how many grams of protein, carbohydrates, and fat on average you need per meal. Now let's make the meals. Again, this will be dependent upon your day and your lifestyle. For me, I do breakfast, lunch, a post-workout shake, and then dinner, sometimes a after-dinner snack if I eat dinner early. So I like to give myself 1 or 2 breakfast options, 1 or 2 lunch options, and 1 or 2 dinner options. Therefore, I'm not stuck eating the same thing every day. You can kind of mix and match. So given, like I told you, I don't want to have too much fat for breakfast, you'll see my breakfast is very much egg whites and oatmeal, berries, kale, and I know I'm going to have a little milk in my coffee. For my lunch, I have like a taco lunch or more of a turkey burger, vegetables, and sweet potato lunch with maybe a little apple for some sweetness. Then when it comes to my post-workout shake, I'll highlight that because it's the same thing every day that I work out. And so that can be something I can save in my Fitness Pal and always know what that's going to be. And my dinner, kind of two different options. Salmon and some maybe grilled peppers and mushrooms and a veggie pasta. So that's kind of my carb for that dinner. Versus the second dinner, my carb is going to be my potatoes. Peppers and mushrooms are very low calorie. And so if I'm still looking to get those carbohydrates in, I can do that through the pasta or through the potatoes. A fun little dessert option is going to be some berries and some whipped cream, like true natural heavy whipping cream, not sugary added type stuff. Is whipped cream the healthiest thing for you? No, but it's a little bit fun to have, and it gives me just something nice to eat that's light and not going to be very calorically dense at the end of the day. First, you need to figure out your budget per week. Once you have that, it's easier to decide, can I get the filet mignon or not? From there, you need to take your meals and work backwards. So if I know I need 35 grams of protein per meal, I can get that from chicken, turkey, fish, whatever it may be. And keep in mind too that other things you eat, like broccoli and spinach, they have trace amounts of protein, like 1 to 3 or 4 grams. So you will get protein from other things. Don't think all 35 grams have to come from the meat. So if there's, work backwards, think about this, there's 16 ounces in a pound. If I buy a pound of chicken, that's going to be 4 meals of chicken if I'm looking to eat 4 ounces at a time. And so if I'm going to have chicken tacos, if I buy a pound of chicken, I can have chicken tacos 4 different times throughout the week. Now I can work backwards and do this for the other meat as well. If I want turkey burgers, how many meals of turkey burgers can I make in a week if I buy X amount? You want to make sure that you don't buy too much because it could go bad, but luckily you could just freeze it, so it really doesn't matter all that much. If we know we need 50 grams of carb per meal, there are various sources we can get that from. From our shopping list that we made, that could be bread, that could be oatmeal, sweet potatoes. Obviously, vegetables and fruits are going to give you carbs as well. Just the more complex carbs like breads and oatmeals and rices and things like that are going to give you carbs in larger quantity. So if I need 25 grams of carb for my sweet potato, that's 4 ounces of sweet potato. If I buy 3 pounds of sweet potatoes, that's going to give me 12 portion sizes or 12 4-ounce portions of sweet potato to eat with my meals for the week. It's a very cheap option to get some really good carbs that are going to be full of phytonutrients and things that are going to help promote your health. So you could work backwards and do that with your sweet potatoes, your rice, your bread, your oatmeals, maybe your couscous, anything that you want to use for your carbohydrates. All right, from here it's time to talk about our fats. And for this, the best thing I think is just to understand different quantities of foods that give you certain fat amounts. So the fact that about an ounce of cheese is going to be anywhere from 5 to 8 grams, depending on the type. Know how much olive oil, a tablespoon of olive oil, which is very common in cooking, if not 2 or 3, gives you 13 grams of fat. So just understand which of your foods are more fat heavy and be sparingly in using them if you're counting and really watching your fats. If you're having high fat, awesome, eat them up. For example, a fillet of salmon can have around 20 grams of fat. Great, good fats, omega-3s, fats that we need, but 30 grams of protein. So technically it's a protein-dense food, but that fat is still fairly high. So figure out your fat quantities and work backwards from that.
Boom, boom, boom. My feet go boom, boom.
Those are steps 1 through 4 on kind of tackling your grocery list and creating your meal plan to match your macros and calories for the week. Stay tuned for videos 2 and 3 on more steps in terms of budgeting and actually preparing and prepping those meals.
Boom, boom.